Hey, story lovers, it's Joy here, your favorite storyteller, and this is Meet the Seekers. Today's story is from Persia, and the title of today's story is The King of Persia and the Princess of the Sea. Long ago, when the world still held mysteries hidden beneath the waves, and kings listened to the whispers of fate, there lived in Persia a mighty king whose name was feared in war and praised in peace. In his younger years, he had conquered great lands and returned victorious from many battles. But as the seasons passed, the clash of swords gave way to calm prosperity, and the kingdom flourished beneath his rule. His people loved him, his enemies respected him. His palace glittered like sunlight upon gold. Yet, for all his wealth and glory, one sorrow followed him like a shadow. He had no child, no son to inherit his throne, no daughter to carry his memory. And every night, when the palace fell silent and the torches burned low, the king would stand in his window, overlooking the sea, and wonder who would rule Persia after he was gone. One day, during a grand gathering at court, ambassadors, nobles, merchants, and travelers from distant lands filled the royal hall. Music echoed beneath the painted ceilings, while servants moved like drifting shadows among silken carpets and silver trays. Then a message arrived. A merchant from a faraway country begged for a private audience with the king concerning a matter of great importance. Curious, the king ordered the man brought before him after the assembly had ended. The merchant entered humbly, bowed low, and spoke carefully. Sire, I have traveled across deserts and oceans with something more precious than pearls or rubies. I possess the most beautiful woman ever seen upon the earth. If your majesty but lays eyes upon her, you will desire no other bride. The king raised an eyebrow. Many merchants always exaggerated. Many traders lied. But he motioned for the woman to be brought in. And the moment she entered the chamber, the king forgot how to breathe. She moved like moonlight across still water. Her beauty was not merely earthly beauty. It was strange, almost unearthly. Her dark eyes seemed to hold hidden depths like the sea before a storm. Her skin glowed softly, and her silence carried more power than the speeches of queens. The king's heart surrendered instantly. Without delay, he married her. He placed her in magnificent chambers beside his own and ordered that the finest garments in Persia be laid before her. Robes embroidered with gold, necklaces of pearls, diamonds bright as frozen stars. But the woman neither smiled nor thanked anyone. She said nothing, not a single word. At first, the king believed she was merely shy or grieving for the land she had left behind. But days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and still silence. She obeyed every custom. She walked gracefully through the palace walls. She listened when spoken to, but never answered, never laughed, never cried, never spoke. The servants whispered among themselves, "Perhaps she is mute. Perhaps she's cursed. Perhaps she's not human at all." Yet, the king only loved her more deeply. Every evening, he sat beside her by the window, overlooking the sea. He spoke to her gently, hoping to draw even one word from her lips. "My queen," he would say softly, "if sorrow burdens your heart, allow me to share in it." But she would simply stare towards the restless ocean below. A full year passed in this strange silence. Then, at last, joy entered the palace. The silent queen gave birth to a son. The kingdom erupted into celebrations. Bells rang from towers. The poor were fed. Gold was scattered throughout the streets. The king himself could scarcely contain his happiness as he held the child in his trembling arms. That night, overcome with emotions, he sat beside the queen and whispered, "My love, I ask for nothing more in this life. Not wealth, not victory, not even immortality. Only speak to me once, just once. One word from your lips would make me the happiest man alive." For the first time in an entire year, the queen smiled. The king froze. Slowly, she lifted her eyes towards him, and then she spoke. "Sire," she said softly, "I have remained silent because my heart has lived in mourning." Her voice was like music after a long winter. The king nearly wept. She thanked him for his kindness, for his patience, for treating her not as a possession, but with honor and gentleness. Then her expression darkened. "But know this," she continued, "had I not borne your child, I would never have loved you, and I would have remained silent forever." Though startled by the words, the king listened closely, for at last the mystery was unfolding. "My name," she said quietly, "is Gulnare, Rose of the Sea." Then she revealed the truth. She was no ordinary woman. She was a princess from the kingdoms beneath the ocean. Her father had once ruled vast empires hidden under the sea, cities built of crystals, coral, and pearls, where creatures of the deep moved through glowing palaces beneath the waves. After her father's death, her brother Saleh inherited the throne, but enemies rose against him. War consumed the underwater kingdom. And during those dark days, her brother had urged her to marry a prince from the world above, believing it might protect her. Gulnare had been furious. To marry one who walks the earth? She had cried, "Never!" In anger, she fled from the sea and hid alone upon an island. But there she was discovered by a nobleman who attempted to force her into marriage. When she resisted him, he sold her to the merchant who had brought her to Persia. The king listened in astonishment. Every word sounded impossible. Yet when he looked upon her face, he knew she spoke the truth. Gulnare then explained the wonders of her people. "We walk beneath the sea as easily as you walk upon land," she said. "The water does not drown us. It does not even wet our garments. We see clearly in the ocean depths, and beneath the waves stand kingdoms greater than many upon the earth." She described towers of crystals, gardens of glowing corals, treasures beyond imagination, and chariots drawn by mighty sea horses. The king listened like a child hearing magic for the first time. Then Gulnare said softly, "I wish to see my family again." The king agreed immediately. "But how would you send word to them?" he asked. Gulnare smiled faintly. "You shall see." She ordered a brazier to be brought into the chamber. Into the fire, she cast sweet-smelling aloes wood. Strange smoke curled upwards as she whispered ancient words in a language unknown to men. Then the sea outside the palace began to churn. The waves rose violently, and suddenly the ocean split open. From the depths emerged a tall young king with sea green mustaches, followed by an older queen of regal beauty and 5 radiant princesses. The king of Persia stood speechless. The visitors moved across the water itself as though walking upon solid ground. When Gulnare saw them, tears flooded her eyes. Her brother Saleh embraced her tightly. Her mother wept openly. For years they had believed her lost forever. At first, the king of Persia hid nearby, uncertain whether these beings came in peace. But when Gulnare reassured him, he stepped forward. The sea royals bowed deeply before him, and to his surprise, they welcomed him warmly. Saleh admitted he had once opposed the idea of Gulnare marrying a man of the earth, but now, seeing the king's wisdom and kindness, he was grateful fate had brought them together. A great feast followed, yet during the meal, something strange happened. The sea people suddenly blushed deeply, and flames flickered briefly from their mouth and nostrils. The king nearly collapsed in terror. Gulnare laughed softly. "It is only their way," she explained. "They feel ashamed to dine at your table before greeting you properly." Relieved, the king joined the feasts. The days that followed were filled with wonder. Then one morning, while everyone sat together in Gulnare's chamber, the nurse entered carrying the infant prince. The moment Saleh saw the child, joy overtook him. Laughing, he lifted the baby high into the air, and before anyone could stop him, he leapt straight out the window into the sea below. The king of Persia screamed. He rushed towards the window in horror. "My son!" But Gulnare remained calm. "Fear nothing," she said gently. "Our child belongs to both worlds." Still, the king trembled with terror until the sea suddenly surged again. Saleh rose from the waves, holding the laughing baby, unharmed in his arms. The prince had not drowned. Not even a drop of water clung to him. Saleh explained that he had spoken sacred words over the child, ancient words carrying the blessing of the sea kingdoms. "Your son," he said proudly, "will walk both sea and land all his life." Then Saleh presented the king with treasures beyond imagination: diamonds the size of pigeons, eggs, emerald rods, and necklaces of pearls longer than a man's height. The king of Persia could scarcely believe such riches existed. Yet, greater than the treasure was the peace now filling his heart. At last, after many joyful days together, the sea royals prepared to depart. Tears flowed freely as Gulnare embraced her mother and sisters. Saleh clasped the king's arms firmly. "You are family now," he said. Then, one by one, they returned to the sea. The waters closed behind them, and silence returned to the palace. But from that day onward, the king of Persia no longer stood at his window feeling alone. For beyond the endless horizon lived an entire kingdom beneath the waves. And his queen, Gulnare, the princess of the sea, had brought its wonder into his life forever. And that's the end of today's video. Please don't forget to subscribe for more intriguing folklore and mythology stories. Leave us your interesting thoughts, suggestions, and lessons learned in the comment section. We love to read them. Like the video and share. See you in our next one. Bye.